Good morning, everybody. Welcome to State of the Market. We are going live with Mark in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to my friends across the pond. Welcome to the State of the Market Show. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Reminder, we're here every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to break down the most important stories in the market and explain to you exactly what is going on and why. As we start off the show, the S&P 500 is up about 0.7%, good for 50 points. You got the Qs exploding higher, up about 1.15%, and the Dow's up about 0.5%. Pretty bullish day. Biggest gainers so far, a lot of strength in AMD, a lot of strength in Intel. MAG as a whole looking stronger. Heck, even Meta and Microsoft are only down about 0.5% and about 0.75% respectively. So even the bad don't look so bad today. We've got a lot of headline risk out there. And yesterday was, there's bombs in the Strait of Hormuz today, or sinking ships today. We're seeing reports of boats being escorted across. So today in State of the Market, I'm going to break down bombs yesterday, peace today. We're going to talk about the bond market and what might be happening there. And then we're going to break down AMD and dig into AI some more with our resident AI expert and head of income trading, Hans Albrecht. Now, before I begin, many of you should have gotten an invite in your mailboxes today. I'm going to be live today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with our very own head of new product development, Hannah Selner. We're going to be reviewing the developments we did from the last year, what's coming this year, and we've got a really big goodie for many of you that attend live. So if you have not registered to join me and Hannah today at 7, here's how to do it. It's going to be a great time. We're going to inform you. We're not selling anything, so you're going to want to just come, relax, pour yourself a glass of wine or something, and enjoy and join Hannah and myself. We promise it'll be worth your time. All right, let's dig into what's going on with the Iran story, because feels like, and stop me if you disagree with me, feels like the bad news is being sold, but then kind of bought and not really rolling over. And then when things calm down, we rally even harder than we sold off. The Strait doesn't really seem to be having the same effect, and that's despite oil just absolutely looking much higher. I mean, we are way above the kind of panic levels we were at in March and April. And yet the market is just sleeping through it. What's the lesson here? You're going to get right now, in terms of trading, you're going to get a little selling on, there might be some bad news in Iran. And then as soon as that kind of glosses over and things relax, we take off. As it stands now, the S&P is trading 62.50. Folks, we are bumping up against all-time intraday closes. The intraday high was from May 1st. That was 72.72. That day, though, we closed 72.30. So if we closed here it would be a new all-time high close. VIX, which got a little breath of life on Monday between weekend effect and some of the risks, right back down to 1740. But the VIX on its own doesn't really tell you a lot. You kind of have to look at the totality of things. What is VIX doing with the S&P? All right, well, S&P up, VIX down. They are negatively correlating. That's what you want to see. That's bullish. Now, let's look at that VIX futures term. VIX futures expire on the 19th. That is 2 weeks from today. The spread between the VIX index, which is 1740, and that May future, which is 1945, is 2 points, give or change a nickel. Traders, this is where VIX should be trading. This complex should be trading when we've got about a month to 40 days to expire, not 2 weeks. So what does that mean for you? That means there is a ton of padding between the index and the future, meaning the futures are expecting the index to rise. Now, you see these spreads wide and out of whack, so not on a regular basis, but it happens. Once or twice a year, things look out of whack. Since they listed VIX futures back in 2006, anecdotally, when we see this, more than a plurality of the time, the majority of the time, and I would argue a very strong majority, VIX futures are right and the index itself is wrong. Meaning, I think where we are, things are possibly a touch toppy. Getting through earnings. War still going on. We're not really seeing the effects of inflation yet. I don't know what the news would be that would drive VIX higher, but the futures are bracing for a move higher in VIX. Now, one area that might come from, and this leads us to the second story, is the bond market. And, IEF is up today, but it is in a real danger zone. Yesterday it closed 94.39. Today it's trading 94.61. The low close was March 27th, and that was 94.60. So we're actually below where we were on March 27th. Take a look at where VIX was at the time. It was in the 30s. It was in the 30s. So right now the market is sleeping on the 10-year note, trading where it is. And the question is, how long can it do it? Below these lows for like an IEF, next stop would be about $1 lower. And then the area I'm really paying close attention to is the April, May lows from 2025. I'll pull back 2 years, when the bond market really was under a lot of pressure, and we saw IEF trade down into the 92s, and going back to January, it got down as low as 91. those were areas where you can see vol is much higher and markets do much worse. And we're approaching those levels. The bond market is the shoe that could drop, right? How many of you are out there thinking there's going to be a shoe to drop? And you're in your mind going, well, it's got to be around Iran. It might tangentially be around Iran. But really, it's going to be if oil prices keep going up, we get a sustained hold higher in oil. U.S. spends more out there, and a lot of countries sell their bonds in dollars to buy oil in petrodollars. That will create downside momentum in the bond market and could become a real problem. If I look at kind of the yield curve, and Bloomberg is a very good place to just to look at where the yield curve is. You just go to rates and bonds and it'll pull up the United States under the Americas. And the 2-year note is 375. The 30-year is 475. You're only getting 100 basis points to go out 28 years. And the move that we could make in the 30-year could be pretty swift. It could absolutely be pretty swift. And that, my friends, is what kind of worries me. It's almost like the 2-year is anticipating that the 10 and the 30 are going to get sold, because TLT looks even worse than the 10-year. It is already basically trading at the lows from July, and its low in the last 2 years was May of 2025. We get down to those levels, you got the back end of the curve really starting to react to markets. We're going to run into a problem. So if you're thinking there is going to be a shoe to drop, the bond market is what you should be looking at. There you have it. Andrew's dropping a boot. Yeah, get those shoes. You want to see a shoe drop? Take a look at Nike. My goodness. We're going to talk about AMD, but my two current kind of hot take ideas: Nike should break up, spin off Jordan brands, and merge Nike General with somebody else. Other one, Shopify and eBay as a pair. That GameStop deal, never going to happen. But now that the cat's out of the bag, eBay would be a very interesting takeover target. Now, a company that will not be taken over, that reports earnings this afternoon, is Advanced Micro Devices. We saw Intel earnings. Intel is blowing the doors off yet again today. And ahead of those earnings, we're pricing in about a 7.5% move, a little bit below normal, but I would not be surprised to see that inflate. So, AMD, the question I have is there really so much demand that Intel is making money hands over fist, and AMD is making money hands over fist, and NVIDIA is making money hands over fist? Or are we starting to see some cannibalism in the chip industry? Are we starting to see? And, you look at the chip reports so far, the answer is no. Qualcomm, AMD, Google, you name it, they're all going up. And yeah, Taiwan Semiconductor is another one. Here to kind of help me preview AMD earnings and answer some of these questions is our head of income trading and resident AI expert. He is Hans Albrecht. And folks, there's still time to join him in his Turbo Income and change the way that your life and your investment strategy works. If you want access to the MTI and first access to the MTI scanner he's developing, call my team 888-872-3301. Good morning, Hans. I hope you're having a great morning. We are popping out of the gate, and that's ahead of these AMD earnings.
Good morning, Mark. Yes, it's insatiable compute mania out there. So they have run up these memory stocks. They have run up the chip makers. We've had the greatest run in semiconductors that we've ever seen. And that's saying a lot considering what they did last year. I called out the SOXL at $17. Where is it now? I think it's like $120. And I said this thing could get to 80, and that looked crazy at the time. And let me take a look here.
It's $140, Hans.
It's 140. So
not
120. Doubled by what some people thought was insane. It has doubled that level. So it's really surpassed all expectations. And what is the reason for that? Well, we have insatiable demand for AI, and it's really just getting started, as we've been talking about at OP for a year. That is really just getting started, and we are going to overdo it at some point. Now, to your point earlier about being just a little bit cautious, have you seen the open interest on Korea? So Korea is like, that's ground zero for kind of some of this compute stuff, chips, etc. And the open interest on calls has gone from like 500 million to 4.5 billion in like a month. I mean, it is like,
wow.
There are definitely signs of euphoria, right? And so we see this when everybody kind of goes all in. I think that's a reason for caution. It doesn't mean that the story is any different. It just means that people are getting a little bit excited.
Hans, one of the crazy things with the move that Intel has made, it's now trading up $12, up 12%. It's now worth $540 billion. It's up 5x, over 5x since it hit those lows around 17 when it got near $100 billion in valuation. Between Intel and AMD, you now have $1 trillion in those two chip makers. And Intel's only a couple billion now behind AMD in market cap. That is how swift and strong the move is. And underneath it, the move is the foundries. Taiwan Semiconductor is now quietly approaching $2 trillion. Taiwan Semiconductor is worth more than Tesla. It's worth more, or it's worth the same as Broadcom. Taiwan Semiconductor is the $1 trillion company that everyone sleeps on. But it's not just that. Look, again, Intel, the foundry, we've seen that one blow up. GFS, this was a sleeping giant. It's now $40 billion. It has gone up over 50% in a month. This is one of the interesting foundry ones that is under the radar, and it may be approaching one. And I'd love your opinion on Global Foundries. It may be having its SanDisk moment. I'm wondering whether we're going to be talking about it going from 40 billion to 100 billion to 250 billion, like we watched Micron and notably SanDisk do in a short period of time. SanDisk is up 10x in a year. Again, more than 10x. A year ago it was $33, Hans. $33.
Well,
you could own SanDisk.
And that's the thing. The world of AI creates data like there's no tomorrow. I mean, just endless amounts of data. We need endless amounts of memory for crunching data, for inference. It's a nonstop sort of flywheel of versus training. When you train a model, you just kind of teach it, but the inference part of it is just nonstop. So it's literally 25 hours a day. It just goes and goes. It's just we talked about and storage, right? You need storage. What are you going to do with all this stuff? It's like, remember when storage took off like 25 years ago? Everybody was just buying so much crap. They needed to put it somewhere. Well, you need somewhere to put all this stuff as you create, as you try to, create all these wonderful things. And so SanDisk and WDC, we talked about WDC at 70. It was one of my picks at $70. It's over 400 now, back on Ticker Highlight Show. So if you guys aren't watching Ticker Highlight Show, you better get on that soon.
You need to be.
We've had some really wonderful calls. But this is the world, right, that we're in right now. And so, global foundries, I mean, they're going to sort of play hopscotch here. And one of the big things that has really kind of had this resurgence, which has led to Intel and AMD and what's the other one that I read? ARM Holdings, things like that, is the CPU. So it was all GPUs for 10 years. And now people have come to this realization that CPUs are very much a complementary sort of processing part of the equation. And so that's kind of interesting, right? And that's why I think there's amazing opportunity out there in this world, because people just aren't quite getting it. And I think that's creating amazing opportunities. As soon as we started talking about CPUs, well, you had all the time in the world to get into ARM, to get into some of these, to get into AMD. And slowly it seeps into markets, and we've seen these stocks go for a great run. So if you're just a little bit ahead of the curve, you can kind of sense what's happening. We talked about memory last year when Micron was $160. I said, this is crazy. Like, it's trading at, and then even at 350, it had doubled. It was trading cheaper than it was at 160 on a valuation basis. It was trading at like 7 times 2027 earnings. So why is it trading over 600 now? Because it's not that expensive. I mean, it's gotten more expensive. But the demand is just, the market, people have trouble thinking in exponential terms. It's just a human thing, right? We kind of think, oh, what happened last year? Well, we'll see more of that this year, maybe. It's hard to kind of see that incredible parabolic potential out there. And that's really what AI is creating, is that the parabola is everywhere.
I mean, seriously. So what areas are you seeing where we're just maybe at the beginning of that parabola, if you will? There are names that it feels like we find a new one every week that takes off, right? I mean, a month ago, who would have thought Intel would go from $50 to $109? The move in SanDisk, the move we're starting to see in, like I said, a name like Global Foundries. Do you see any spots where that parabola can happen?
I've been watching the photonics area for a while. There's some smaller names in that area that look kind of interesting. We've sort of seen runs in the LITEs and COHRs. So I think there's some areas where you kind of think about, well, we need all this data to move very quickly, and there's a whole bunch of it, as we just established. How do we do things in a more efficient way? And so, that's going to be always the sort of question is, well, how do we do things in a way that will satisfy, that can accommodate all this incredible demand? And so I think, but that could be very disruptive too. But there's something called, for those of you out there, something called Jevons paradox. And so we talk about, Micron, every now and then someone's going to say, oh, there's more efficiency. We've created more efficiency in this chip. So that necessarily means that people are going to spend less on chips. Well, that's not really how it works. We satisfy that demand, right? So that once you make something cheaper and more accessible, you now increase the total addressable market. So now even more people can have access to it. So it doesn't really slow down demand. or slow down sales necessarily. Maybe you sell something for less, but you're going to sell a whole bunch more of them. And so Jevons paradox is very, very much a part of this new world where, if you make compute less expensive, you have the demand. Google last week, what did they say? They said our cloud numbers would have been even better if we could satisfy the demand that's out there. So a massive company like this that is spending hundreds of billions of dollars to increase capacity, to increase its ability to satisfy customers and the demand out there, said we could have done way more. So this is a new paradigm of, listen, you build it, and at the moment they will sop it up. They will absorb it. Now, at some point, are they going to overdo it? Yeah, they're probably going to pack those pantries like we did in COVID. They're going to pack the pantries with chips, and they're going to overdo it, because if I need, $50 million worth of chips, then I better go out and order $400 million so that I get closer to my 50 million. And at some point, we're going to overdo it. But I don't see that as being around the corner yet.
All right, Hans, last point. So I was on Canadian business television today, and they're asking me about Shopify, and I threw out my idea. All right. Then you and I love this. I want to talk about this for 1 minute while I got you. You and I both agree the GME eBay deal it ain't going to happen. I told the people that if that deal happened, I was going to fly to Toronto and be their showrunner for the day. But it did get me thinking, and we were talking about this in our trader group yesterday. Shopify and eBay, there is some real synergies there, and it could really, I think, benefit both companies. And you seem to real kind of raised your eyebrow. Wonder if you know the CEO of Shopify.
Did you see the Cohen interview yesterday where they were like, he was on CNBC and they were like, well, how are you guys going to pay for this? And he just sort of went, the details are on the website. And they're like, well, how are you going to pay for this? He goes, I said it's stock and cash. And they kept pushing him, and he just literally wouldn't answer the question. It was the strangest interview I've ever seen. I don't know. That guy's he's a bit out there.
That deal is not going to happen. That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if you're buying eBay for that reason, it's just the dumbest.
I guess
dumbest idea I've ever heard. And the story out there is Burry dumped his GameStop stock as soon as he saw that interview.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's a bit of a lunatics, or I mean, I suppose it's news, but I suppose you can say anything you want, and to garner attention. And that's a big platform, but it's strange that he would take it anyway. So that's an interesting idea, Mark, because eBay, and it's funny how we've sort of got it's like Back to the Future here. We've got Cisco and Intel and eBay and Nokia, and all these names from the past are coming out of the woodwork to reestablish themselves. And it's kind of funny. And, I mean, we all used to use eBay a lot. I don't use it so much anymore, but they've got this incredible, they're kind of like a PayPal. They have this amazing decades of data, of demand, of customers. And I think that's an interesting hookup. And I think you're going to probably start seeing more hookups over time, because in this disruptive world where you may not be able to survive on your own, you may have to get together with other companies. And we're already seeing it even with hyperscalers. Like they're like, oh, I'll buy your chips and your chips. I mean, everyone's kind of figuring out how they're going to, how their evolution is going to work in this world. And I think it's going to be from making connections and alliances. And I think that's very interesting, right? So Shopify's got the big sort of storefront, and eBay's got the demand. It's like a big flea market. And Shopify is to some extent too. So I like it. It makes sense. I mean, I could see it happen. I mean, it makes sense.
It does. It does. So that was just kind of my fun idea. All right, Hans, we're kind of running up against it. And again, if you're interested in joining Turbo Income and getting in on the MTI scanner before it launches, you'll have first access. You got to call my team, 888-872-3301. And again, I want to remind you, Hannah and I will be live today at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we're going to be revealing all the upcoming awesomeness that is coming out of Option Pit here over the next 6 to 12 months, including major updates to some of our AI engines, what's going on with new products, and all kinds of fun. It's how we performed. It's going to be a great time. And for coming, we're going to have gifts for you guys. So, and we're not selling you anything. So if you haven't registered, click the link, register, join me and Hannah, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Hans, thanks again for your time this morning and for all of your insight. So for Hans Albrecht, our head of income trading, the master of turbo income, creator of the MTI, I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. We're going to be here same time, same place tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time for the State of the Market show. Thank you for coming. And as always, thank you, Amin. Have a good one.